Hello world! Today we are going to talk about eyeshadow placement strategy. Hey everybody, Shelly here, and today I've got part 3 of my eyeshadow placement basics strategy kind of series going on here. If you have not seen the first couple videos, I will link them down below. The first one is the one where I go through all the terminology and the placement rules and sort of the backbone of this whole thing. So catch up on that one if you haven't seen it already, and we'll have a total of 4 videos in this series. In the next part of the series, I plan to get into choosing colors and the color wheel and textures and finishes of eyeshadow and what kinds of brushes you should use and how to put together your first brush kit and all that kind of good stuff. So if you guys want to see how we got the third look in this eye series, keep on watching. Down below? No. Keep on watching. Over on this side, we're going to use a similar concept with the thirds, but we're going to do it as a halo eye. And generally, halo eye means your inner and your outer corner are one color that's usually darker, and then your center is a brighter color. These usually match, your inner and outer usually match, and they sort of make a halo on your lid. So I'm going to stick with the Metal Matte palette, and we are going to use these green sort of colors here. Now, my general approach, same kind of thing, lay down a transition color, and for that I'm going to continue to use Fringe and my fluffy Wet n Wild brush in this palette because it's just a really perfect transition color. Now, I did put my eyeshadow primer back on, so always have your primer down. It really helps just everything. If you're using a primer that's kind of sticky or sort of tacky, you might want to first put down a flesh-colored shadow from all the way from your lash line to your brow bone just to set that primer so it's not as sticky and you don't get a blob of color sort of stuck to it. But in this case, the Urban Decay doesn't really need that. It blends into the skin really nicely. So there is our transition. And for the crease, I think, what color do I want to use for this crease? Dare I use green? I'm just going to do it. So this moss, this green color, makes me a little nervous. I was going to go with my tried and true purple, but I think I want to stay in the blue-green family, and I think I'm going to stay green. So I'm going to use my Sigma E25, and I'm just going to pick up a tiny bit of moss, and we're going to tuck it in to the crease. Holy pigmentation, Batman. Be careful when you have super pigmented because you don't want to overpower what you did with your blending in your transition. But here we go. We are darkening the crease, people. We are darkening the crease. With a super pigmented shadow like this, you also want to be careful not to go too far, too dark into your inner corner. Use most of your product out in the outer corner of your eye, and then once you've gotten it to lay down, then take your brush into the center, and you won't have quite as much product on there, so you won't be risking too much craziness with the color getting too deep in the center of your eye. I'm going to go back into Fringe with that same brush just to lighten the upper part of this just a little bit. Alright, so for the halo eye, we basically want a darker color in our outer and inner thirds and a lighter color in the center. So I'm going to use this Watt as my darker color on a Real Techniques small shader brush, and we're going to use this for our outer corner. And again, map out your either outer V or your outer 7 as appropriate for your eye shape. Look how pigmented that is. Oh my gosh. I can't even. It's so pretty. There's my sort of outer 7. And I want the same color in my inner corner. Now, sometimes I get a more precise brush to do this because I have such dark circles in the inner section that if I mess up a little bit, it really looks bad. But I'm going to keep the same brush and just carefully pat into my inner third of my eye here. And you basically want to take it up to your crease, but not beyond your crease. So that you've got sort of inner and outer green going on here. Some people like to connect the color at the top. I usually do connect mine. You don't have to. You can bring your bright shade all the way to your crease if you'd like. Since I have hooded lids and I feel like I need to enhance my darkness of my crease most of the time, that's why I choose to connect it, but you don't have to. You can do it either way. Another flat shadow brush, we're going to go in with Ignite. This sort of lighter teal metal. I have not tried this color yet. Holy cow. It's pretty. Again, go a little bit over the dark so that you get them to blend together, but don't worry too much because we're going to come back in with the dark to liven that back up. Really, 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 Kat Von D? It's so pretty. It's so pretty. I'm not putting any additional product on here. I'm just very softly going over the edge where the light and the dark meet to make sure it goes smoothly from one color to the other. I feel like we might be able to get away with a little blue in the crease. I like the green, but I'm wanting some blue. So I'm going to get my, let's switch to a different brush. This is a Morphe. It is the M433. It's similar to the Sigma E25, but it's a little bit more fluffy. And I'm just going to get the tiniest dab of this velour blue color. I mean, the tiniest little dab of color. Can you even see it? Barely. Barely. Dab, dab, dab. Tiny, tiny, tiny. And just go in to the crease, not too high. Yes, this is what I wanted. Just to darken the crease a little bit. Yes. Now, if you want something a little bit more dramatic, here's where we can take and emphasize the outer V. Now, usually you would use a dark gray or a black, a very, very dark color, the darker than everything else you've got going on. Now, I don't really want to bring black into this, but I think the blue on top of this green is going to do what I want it to do. My favorite brush for this is from Makeup Geek, and it is called the Outer V brush, and it's just a tapered brush. It's not quite as stiff as a pencil brush, but it's not a blending brush either. It's just soft enough that it can blend without putting color down too harshly. I find it to be perfect for the outer V. Now I'm going to touch that blue velour, and I mean barely touch it again. Not super much going on in terms of what's on my brush. And I'm just going to kind of pat and draw in my outer 7. Just to give a little more dimension. And you want to layer this. Go slowly, because if you get too much going on all at once, it can make you cry. See how we're just doing that outer 7. Just to deepen it up a little bit. You could go in with something darker like black most of the time. I'm using a black, but I really like how this blue looks on top of the green. Now you could go in with an inner corner highlight at this point. I'm just going to grab that glitz color that we had used on the other side and just pop a little bit into the inner corner. And that just sort of brightens everything up. I've gotten some into my eyeball. And last up, you just want to get a clean, fluffy brush. This is that It Cosmetics brush. And just smooth out the edges. Make sure everything is smooth and soft and blended together. Oh, these shadows are so easy to work with. There you go. There you have it, look number 3 in the 4-part series on eyeshadow placement strategy. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. That way you will be notified when the 4th video in this sequence shows up on my YouTube channel. We're going to have a bunch more of videos in this series. If you have suggestions on what you would like to see, things you struggle with, or would like more input on, feel free to leave some comments down below. Thanks a lot for taking the time to hang out with me and geek out over makeup. I appreciate it. Have each other a wonderful day. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and take care of each other. Bye-bye.